Greetings once again. This is Ray Mofield with the Oral History Microphone, and we're happy today to be visiting in the home of Mrs. Earl Hobbs. We're on the Big Bear Road in Marshall County. And Ms. Hobbs, thanks for letting us come in. It's always a pleasure to interview our older people in the county who can bring us back so many memories that we'd otherwise might lose. Now, I'd like to start out and ask you if you're old enough to be on the program. You got to be 65.
No, I'm just 16.
Well, you've got a sense of humor, lass.
I'm 83.
83 years old, and who were you before you married?
I was an old, L-E-S, old.
Could you tell us your father's name?
His name was James Alexander Nold.
And he married?
He married Aurora Franklin.
The Franklins and the Knowles, then?
They lived in Trigg County.
Trigg County. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what year they came over here, but they came pretty soon after they married. And they settled down here in the
Griggstown community.
Yeah. And the children went to Grigg School till they moved up here on this road, up here on 68, where Hoy Greenfield owned.
Now this was the old Birmingham Road, wasn't it?
Yeah, old Birmingham Road. And he traded farms when I was 9 years old. He traded farms. Us kids, though, we went to Clark School, and I think I went to about 2 before we moved down into the White Oak School District.
You happen to remember any teacher you had?
Oh, yeah. I had all of these. Now, I think my first teacher after we moved down there was George Smith. I can remember in the wintertime sitting around the old stove, we'd all have to stay inside, and I'd sit in the teacher's lap, and he'd pet me and carry on.
Teacher's pet?
He married a cousin of mine, his wife, Miss Lillian Smith. She was a teacher too, but her mother was a cousin to my mother, and I don't know what kin me and her was, but we was a little bit kin, but I always had Miss Lillian. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know who the next one was. There's Ollie Collin, Brent Hastings, all out there.
Brent Hastings. He was in the room with my father when Dad was in the Benton long-term care.
Yeah. Yeah, he's died since we came back here. Mm-hmm. And Dewey Chandler, she was a college, Dewey College, was a teacher, and I don't know, I think Ollie College taught there. And when I was going over there, there's a gang of big boys, and women. All the whites, Elliot and Tyson and all of them, and Cletus Kelly and his brothers, and just a bunch of them grown.
Well, now, by the time you got to start school, you were kind of spoiled, weren't you? Been sitting in the teacher's lap?
Yeah, I spoiled it. Miss Lucy Faust was my teacher over at Clark's, and she just petted me, and I can remember one time I was sick. Us kids, they got chalk in just little wooden boxes, and when the box would get empty, the kids, they thought it was grand to get one of those boxes.
Oh, that's a nice toy.
Yeah, and I was sick one time, and Miss Lucy, she got a box of chalk and emptied it. She sent me the box, and I thought that was the grandest thing. And this, I can remember George Smith, I don't know whether I went to him at Clark's part of the school or something, but I can remember one time that we all took off and went to a sorghum making, they're making molasses.
Oh, I like that.
And George got in the skimming hole.
Oh,
And we just liked
that
it.
wasn't much fun to step in the
No,
skimming hole.
it just tickled us kids to death, though, because he was always he is a big man, and he is very jolly and took things like that real good. But we thought it was the funniest thing that he is in that skimming hole.
I remember one thing about skimming holes, and I tried to stay away from them. I didn't want to fall in it. But they would attract yellow jackets.
Oh,
Remember how
yeah,
they
I
smell that
know.
sweet syrup, and here they came.
My daddy's made molasses and or maybe he didn't have no mill, but I guess he rented it or something. Anyway, we'd go. I can remember feeding the sorghum through that, and that old mule going around and around, I can. And there wasn't anything that was to be done on the farm that I didn't help do. I reckon I was counted the kind of a tomboy. He just had two boys. One boy married real young, and the other is home. And the rest of them were girls.
So you did the boys' work.
Yeah, I plowed, I harrowed, I disked, I done everything. One time I was a disking a piece of land and driving two mules, and I was up on that disc, and the seat broke off of that disc, and I fell backwards, but I happened to miss the disc. Didn't hurt me, but that was a close call right there.
I remember disking one time and disc up a big snake.
Yeah.
And that scared me to death.
Now, I'll tell you, whenever I was out and I found a snake, that snake hardly ever got away from me. I killed him before he got anywhere. But up here, we've had the snakes back then were usually black racers or chicken snakes or something. They wasn't counted too poison if they bit you. But up here, we found some pretty good sized copperheads. And my husband was out here in the garden one evening. I was mowing down the hill here, and he was over inside the garden with the lawnmower fixing, mowing off the strawberry bed.
Mm-hmm.
And directly he hollered at me, and I saw he had stopped, and he started running. He said, "Get me a hoe, quick, get a hoe." I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "A snake's got me." Well, I said, "You'll have to wait till I can get up there and get one." I had to come on up to the shed and get him a hoe, and I carried it down there. And he had pulled up corn stubs and beat that snake. He is a copperhead, and he had his fangs hung in his pants leg. He never did touch the skin. But
well, that's a narrow escape.
He got him loose and killed him. And that was, I couldn't keep from studying that. It was such a narrow escape from him.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's see, you went, was it Clark School, your first school?
Yeah. Clark.
Did you ever visit any other schools around? What were some of the other schools in the area?
Well, no, I never did. After I started in school, of course, I never visited other schools, but
Was White Oak very far from that?
Now, White Oak, it was the Mr. Humphrey that my daddy traded farms with. He gave the land, for that school to be built on. Mm-hmm. And when they done away with the school, of course, that went back to us on their farm.
Mm-hmm. Was Ball Knob very far from here?
Ball Knob was, I guess I'd counted. It was on the lower Birmingham Road, and I guess it was about halfway from where we lived to Birmingham, that
Mhm.
Ball Knob School. Now, Cox's lived back over here on this Morris Camp Road, you know,
Yes.
and Cox, and her father died, and she asked me to finish out her school.
Oh, you
And
taught at Ball now.
Yeah, I went over there, and I was I'm about 18 or 19, I guess. Anyway, I stayed with her and her mother, and Ollie Cox, my brother-in-law's brother, he was there. He lived there too, you know, and he'd carry me backwards and forwards to school. We had to,
Hmm.
it was too far to walk. I don't know how far it
Now,
was.
back then, you had to pass an exam to get a teacher's certificate.
Yeah, I went to that month normal training they'd have at Benton, you know.
Hmm.
And then I took the examination and got the certificate, and I finished out Ann's school for her, and then when Verna Cox, she married Max Petway,
Hmm.
she said she was going to take a vacation. She wanted me to finish her school out down the Skies. Well, I went down there, and I didn't know till after she got back she had gone off to get married. And I finished that one out after I went down there about two years at least. When I had graduated from the 8th grade, we had graduating exercise at Benton, down here at First Church, I think, in Baptist Church down
Mhm.
here on this corner, you know where it is.
But many students would, lacking something else to do, would go until they married, I guess, or till they were
Yeah.
21 or so.
I've always said that, well, I started into high school and I went 3 weeks and I quit. And I went to Purdue then, went to work, but I've always said that anybody that got a good 8th grade education knew more than one that went clear through high school. I believe they had better education.
I don't doubt, but many of them knew a lot more about the basics than our students do now.
That's what I think, because they didn't have near so much
One thing they could spell
sports
better.
and things like that to take up their time.
Did you have spelling bees?
Oh yes, I was a good speller.
What-
I was. I stood up just as long as most of them, and I've won some of them. And there's another thing that we'd do at school. I haven't heard that mentioned by nobody. But maybe on Friday afternoons, you know, we'd do something else besides schoolwork for an hour or two. And I know that I can remember having us to take a big word like Constantinople or something that way, and make all the words out of them letters, that we could.
The one that got
And
the
the
most
one that
was
got
the
the
winner.
most, yeah.
Mhm.
And that was right interesting. I liked that. And I don't know. There's some. I got along pretty good with my schoolmates, but one time we were playing Wolf Over the River, and there was a girl.
How did you play Wolf Over the River?
Well, I can't hardly remember just how, but I know there was a lot of running in it, you know. And there was a girl right in behind me. All we were just running for dear life, and her foot hit my heel, you know,
Mhm.
and turned me a flip and broke my arm. And I thought that was all saying there was that girl caused me to break my arm. Well, the teacher sent me home, and I had the doctor then. He came out to the house to set my arm, and I remember my daddy holding me between his legs, and I sat on his lap, and he helped me. They didn't give me no anesthetic or nothing. That doctor straightened that arm up and put it cast it that like they had then. They just wooden slabs, I think. Anyway, I know after he got through it, is old Dr. Skinner that lived in Bryansburg. He said, "You got more nerve than a lot of them." I said, "I don't know. I just a young kid, you know." But I just stood there and I took it. And,
But a lot of pain, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And did it hurt you a great deal later?
Well, no, not too much. It didn't, you know, I don't know.
Kind of got used to it after a time, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, there were some famous people out in that area besides you, weren't there? It wasn't Ed Holly?
I wasn't famous.
Wasn't Ed Holly from out in here?
Yeah, Ed. No, he was over at Clark School.
Clark School.
They live this Lower Benton Road here. You know, you've been, I guess, out that way. There's a hill over there. It was steep. They called it the Lum Holly Hill. And the Hollies lived right there. That family Hollies did. But they come to Clark School. The Hollies and Hensons, and I know Dr. Sam Henson and Lee Henson. I don't know whether Sam ever went to school. I was too little then to know.
Well, you went to Paducah and went to work. Now, when did you get married?
I got married in 29. My daddy died in 29. He died in September of 29, and we got married in December. And then my mother, after my daddy died though, my mother went with me to Paducah, and we got an apartment, and she lived with me, and she lived with me after I married. Earl's work was changed from there to Mayfield, and we moved to Mayfield, and my mother went with me, and she made her home with me. And when she got too old for me to leave her alone, my girl, though, she was just little, and my mother thought that she just had to stay with her, you know, and that is after she got, Earl was in the service, you know, from the World War II, and she just didn't think she could leave Ed and Earl at all. But she
How many children did you have?
Just the one.
Just Ed and Earl.
And she got so that I was scared to leave her at home by herself, my mother, you know. And my older sister took her out there, and she died out at Hayes Dyke. And that is in 39. My daddy died in 29, and my mother in 39. And I didn't get married till I was 27 years old.
Well, you were old enough to know what you were doing.
I don't know. My mother always said the marriage was a leap in the dark, and it's just
now,
about that way.
Edna Earl is married.
Yeah.
Do you have any grandchildren?
Yeah, she's got 3 children. She's got 2 girls and a boy. They're all grown.
Where do they live?
The oldest one married an Evans boy up at Alamo, and he farms. And her next girl, she's in Texas, and she's working in some kind of mechanical work of some kind with automobiles. I think she's in I don't know what kind of work it is, whether it's office work or what it is. She said she is here for Christmas. She said she had a new job, and I really didn't ask her what she done. And the boy then, him and his daddy both works down at David Reed's place, the
Mm-hmm.
rock quarry down there, whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And
So he's near enough you can see him quite a bit.
if he'd come. I don't ever see him.
Well,
He thinks, well, he has such awful hours to work, and he works in the coal part of it. Coal. He did work with the rock, when he first went to work down there, and then they started up this coal business that they've got, and he's in that, and sometimes he has to work till way in the night. Sometimes he's off for a few hours and has to go back then when a train comes in. I never know when he's going to work, and I told him, I said, you don't do a thing in the world, only work, come home, get a shower, go out and run around at night, come back home and sleep a little while, I guess, maybe, and then he's gone to work again.
yeah.
But he's lucky to have a job. I told him he better stay with it. Earl wanted him to go in the Air Force so bad, he just talked and he talked. He could never. No, he didn't want no part of that. He said, well, you can get you a good education. And he said, now you can make a man out of yourself or you can go for dogs. But said, there's a good chance for you right there. And Alan, he wasn't interested though. He had a uncle on the Jones side that was a retiree from the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us a little bit about the country when you were growing up. When you went to Paducah, did they have streetcars? Trolleys?
And Earl, did they? I don't know. No, I think it was buses when I first went down there.
Mm-hmm.
I went down there, though, when I was about 23, and I don't believe, though,
You remember your first cars?
No, I never did have no car. I wasn't able to afford a car.
Mm-hmm.
Earl, he worked at the garage. He always had a car to drive, and if he didn't own one, he could get one from the place where he worked, But all the time that we was going together, a lot of times he didn't have no car because I know we walked all over Paducah. We'd walk to the theaters, we'd walk to churches and make long walks. And I don't guess he had any car then. That is it, Earl, I guess he did.
What about doctoring back in those days? Did the doctors come to your house?
Yeah, they came to the house, and I can remember this doctor. I had tonsillitis. I said in the fall of the year when the wind first began to blow from the north, I got sore throat, and I'd have it all the winter, just off and on all the winter. And Dr. Sam Hinton was my doctor sometime, and then this Dr. Skinner at Branchburg, that is before Dr. Sam. Anyway, this Dr. Skinner, they've had him out there. I can remember one time, I don't know whether I had this tonsillitis that caused that or not, but I had a spell that I knew what I was doing, but they couldn't do nothing with me. And my daddy even couldn't hold me. I was making for the door. I was going to get out. And I got away from him and I got outside. And when I came to myself, my mother come on out the door and she got me back in the house. And it seemed like that I had another spell like that. And this doctor came and he stayed all night that night to see if I was going to have another one. And whatever caused it, I don't know. I never knew.
Mhm.
But I was then in my teenage. I was early teens, you know. And I reckon it must have been the steer, and I was out of my head. Maybe that caused me to get up and
Did
do
you
that.
look forward when you were a young girl growing up, let's say, to get a new dress and go to big singing? Or?
No, I wasn't like that. Well, my oldest sister usually done the shopping for us, and I can remember now back when we first moved down there to the Humphrey place. It came an awful big hailstorm one night. It was a bad storm, and I never. She'd been to town that day, and she'd bought us some new shoes and different things. We was trying on her shoes, and my daddy, he always went to bed real early, as soon as he could eat supper and smoke his pipe, and he went to bed. Well, I heard my mother. She went to the back kitchen door, and she came through his bedroom, and she said, "Jim, get up." Said, "It's an awful bad cloud." Said, it looks like it's just right down on the house. And that scared me. But by that time, though, it commenced hailing. And I run and jumped in bed with shoes and everything, and covered up my head, and that just like scared me to death.
Mhm.
And when that was over, there was hail piled up on our porch, and the next day there was they just for several days they would find birds and different things that nobody could recognize. They'd been blown in there from somewhere.
Mhm.
Twigs off of the trees, you know, and it was terrible. It was in April.
Mhm.
This
Tornado
storm.
weather.
Yeah, it would have been a tornado. Now, of course, then we just took it as it come. We didn't hear about it.
Didn't have the
Uh,
weather you listen to on TV
no,
and radio.
no, didn't have nothing like that. And
Well, you know, we're about to run out of time. I'd like to ask you, do you remember anything that your mothers or grandmothers made, or the neighbors, that you liked to eat real well when you were growing up?
like to eat.
Did they make burgoo or?
Anything my mother cooked was good. It was the best that was ever cooked.
Mm-hmm.
To me, you know.
Yes, sir.
Everybody thinks their mother could cook the best.
Well, that's right.
And I ate what was put before me. Now I didn't say I won't eat that and I won't eat that. I like the kids do now. No, I don't want that. And finicky, you know, that one's got to have one thing, one's got to have something else.
Mm-hmm.
I know from the grandkids how Ed and Earl had to cook. But I told her, I said, I ate what was put before me. And of course we grew everything we ate, all but
Yeah.
staples like coffee and sugar and stuff like that. We had to buy off peddling wagon. And we hardly ever ate an egg because that had to go to buy this coffee.
Sugar and
stuff.
salt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Miss
Yeah.
Hobbs. I've enjoyed visiting with you. You're a great talker and a wonderful storyteller.
Yeah.
And this is
I
good.
hope all of this I've told you is true, but that
Well,
I can remember.
It's close
You
enough.
know, it's just I've got nothing else to do and sit here and think about things like that. I can't get up and walk around, and I think about a lot of these things, and they just seem so real and so. It's like it hadn't been long since it happened.
Well, thanks again. This is Ray Mofield speaking, and we return you now to our studio in Benton.